John 3:6 has the first of several very difficult present tense verbs to translate. You'll have to think theologically for this one. Pas, ha en auto menon, uch hamartane. Pas, ha hamartanon, uch heoriken auton, ude egnoken auton. So here's your verb, sins. What's its subject? Well, it's this whole phrase again, isn't it? So it's everyone who remains in him does not sin. We'll come back to that. Everyone who sins, okay, there's your next subject, has not seen him, nor has known him. And on these latter two forms, just remind you that the root is hor, and what happens in the perfect is that you get an epsilon and the omicron lengthens to omega. So heoriken is the perfect of horao. And on this verb, remember when you have gamma, nu, O class vowel, that is from gnosko. So another perfect. So these are great perfects that show a completed action with ongoing consequences, that if a person continues in sin, he has not seen, so there was no initial conversion, and the consequences are that they keep sinning, and they have not known him. They have not come into a relationship with him. Here's the problem. How are you going to translate that present? If you just translate it as a regular present, everyone who remains in him does not sin, it brings open the possibility of perfectionism. I went with keeps on sinning, and remember that's all within the purview of the present tense. The present tense can be nearly punctiliar, or it can be very, very ongoing, continuous, imperfective. So that you're not adding a word, you're just saying the Greek present tense is much more flexible than the English present tense. NASB goes with sins continually and italicizes it. The CSB just says everyone who remains in him does not sin and just leaves it up for you to understand the theology. ESV keeps on sinning. I often tell people this is the most interpretive verse and its parallel verses in the ESV. I still remember this discussion, and we talked a long time about keeps. NRSV, simple sins. NIV, keeps on sinning. And that is interesting. They make this first verse really, everyone who resides, this is ongoing kind of concept, does not sin. And that kind of picks up some of the imperfective force of the verb, I think. And NLT does the same thing. Anyone who continues to live in him will not sin. So they're trying to get the idea of this is an ongoing relational thing. This is not an event of sin here, an act of sin there. So again, let me stress, the present tense can be anywhere from a near punctiliar event to completely imperfective. And you're not adding a word if you emphasize the imperfective nature of it. You're just bringing out what you think contextually that tense means. So to phrase this, you had a punctuation, and here you have two verbs coming out of the subject. So I would do it like this. So your core statement stated positively is everyone who abides in him, who remains in him, who resides in him, doesn't sin. And I think it means isn't okay with ongoing sin in their life. Kind of how when I preach it. Then everyone who does sin, and you've got this ook, and I think I want to add a little extra space in there, just to make it clear what's going on. And there's two things has not what? Hasn't seen him, nor has known him. I don't want that ook to get lost, so that's why I brought it out just a bit. So the one remaining in him doesn't live in sin. The one sinning, the one who's okay with ongoing constant sin in their life, I would say, has not seen him nor has known him.